Hey everyone, it's Mari. Thank you so much for stopping by today. I have another project today for the My Creative Scrapbook Kit Club, and I'm working with the February main kit today. This is my last layout for the kit club, and today I wanted to do some mixed media. I just pulled some of the pattern papers from the kit that I thought that I might like to work with for my layout today. I'm just showing you those pattern papers. The kit is right full of the So Happy Together collection from Simple Stories, but there's a little bit of Jen Hadfield and Photoplay mixed in there as well. I have taken a piece of white cardstock from my stash and I have primed it with some clear gesso. And I'm just contemplating what I want to do for mixed media. And my idea here is that I'm going to use a little bit of Distress Oxide ink just to give a little bit of really subtle mixed media through the center of my layout. I am going to use my Tailored Expressions blending brushes here, and the colors of oxide ink that I used, and you should maybe hopefully be able to see that on the screen, but I think I used Shabby Shutters, Scattered Straw, and Tattered Rose. And the method to my madness there was that I was trying to go for colors that are in the papers and in the kit. So the color scheme in the kit definitely involves these three colors for sure, among others. And I wanted to just blend these together. I wanted to start with a green. I didn't want the green next to the pink, so I just went green, yellow, pink in that way, just kind of blending the yellow and green together and the pink and the yellow together. And I really like how it turned out. I like that it's subtle. I don't always necessarily go for really bold mixed media. I just kind of like sort of like a little hint of color oftentimes. And that's what I'm doing here. So I'm just going to blend that in. It's going to be really nice and subtle. And I'm actually going to add a bit of a layer over top of that. For the gesso that I used here, I used the Finnabar Prima Art Basics gesso. I've been using that probably for about 6 months or so. I like it because it doesn't yellow. I did do a video on kind of like a review of different types of gesso several months back here on my channel. I will link that in the description box below if you want to take a look at that. But I do really like this Prima gesso. I like how it takes color and it's really simple and easy to use. I like it. I am going to actually use a little bit of the Imagine Crafts Sheer Shimmer Spritz over top of my Distress Oxide ink. I did do a little bit of spritzing of the ink with water so that it already does look kind of like a little bit distressed. But now I'm going to distress it and make it sort of react even a little bit more here just by spritzing it with that shimmer spritz. And I love this stuff. I think it's really cool. And it just gives the middle section of my layout, or the kind of like that third through the section that I'm working on here, just really shimmery and pretty. Now, I really love this text paper from Simple Stories. I really like both sides of this paper, but I am going to mostly use, or what's mostly going to show here is the text. But I end up using almost all of this paper here, and I'll show you how I do that. So I'm kind of deciding how much of, or how far down I want that rip to be on the paper. So I am going to start with it in this position, but I think I end up actually cutting a little bit more off of it. But I use the strip that I cut off for a little strip along the top. I just reverse the sides. I'll show you that here in a minute. So what I'm going to do here, I'm just looking for the pencil line that I put on there. I'm just going to trim this down to where I thought I might use it. And you'll just see me cutting that off. And at this point, I think I'm going to place it there. And now, and actually maybe it does stay there. I think I might have already trimmed a little bit more off of it. I'm just going to take and just really distress the edge of that torn bit there. And just kind of taking a look at that top. I'm wondering what I'm going to do there. First of all, I tried this torn strip up there. And I'm thinking, well, maybe I would like to put that up there just for some detail. Then I'm thinking, well, or it could kind of be peeking out here, which also would have looked cool. And what I actually end up settling on is I take that piece out and I kind of turn it the opposite way to how it was ripped. And then you can see how the pattern of the ripping up above is mirrored in that strip along the bottom. I really like how that looks, and I like how there's that dark piece at the bottom, and then I'm going to just add a little strip of the back side of that text paper to the top. So you'll see that in a minute. Now I wanted to take this navy tone on tone floral paper that I used on another layout. I wanted to take what was left of that and mat my photos on that. So my two photos I'm using here today are, I think they're about 2 by 2 or maybe 2.5 by 2.5. They are square photos that I have printed in black and white. And I'm not going to be too careful with how straight these are because I am going to distress the edge of that paper. And you did notice that I popped that up on some foam adhesive just because I wanted there to be sort of like a little bit of breathing space between the photo and that patterned paper. And that way that's going to allow me to, if I want, stick some layers in there or just to make it look more dimensional. I'm going to add a couple more layers of pattern paper to my photo mats, not all the way around the edges, but just kind of on the corners, using a couple of pattern papers from the kit. And mostly these are just scraps that I'm using from other layouts that I did for the using the kit. So I'm just going to take my little tool here. I'm going to distress all 4 edges of each of those 2 photos. And I just like how that looks. And I think it just goes along nicely with the ripped paper as well. So I don't know. I always feel like when I have mixed media, it's nice to kind of distress a few other things. And this was all perfect for using the Prima stamp that's in the kit. So you will see me using that Prima stamp here for this project as well. I also end up using this little Tim Holtz stencil. I've got my stamp mounted on a little block there. And I got out some archival ink in kind of a moss green. I think maybe it's called peat moss or something like that. I thought I might do 2nd generation stamping. So I inked up my stamp and stamped off on a piece of scrap. But what I realized when I'm doing that is the stamp's not going to show up. So I actually end up using the full strength of the ink. And I like how that looks. And you'll see that here in a minute once I get this other area stamped down here. So I don't know if I'm going to show you this on camera, but I do end up stamping that Prima stamp down 3 times on each side in each of those areas. And it's going to be much darker. So there you can see it. Now, you probably think that looks really strange, but you're not actually going to see all of those areas. You're just going to see a little bit of that stamped image poking out around the photo. And it's just going to look I think it looks really interesting and cool. So now what I'm going to do is take some of the Vicki Boutin glaze. This is a product that's white. So it's not completely opaque. And I'm taking some Brutus Monroe, I think it's called snow glitter or something like that, but it's just like really shimmery glitter. And I'm mixing that in with the glaze. I'm going to add a little bit more in here. I really want this to be shimmery, and I'm going to put that through the stencil. And it's just going to add this really pretty sparkly texture to my project. So it's going to go along really nicely with the shimmer and shine of the shimmer spritz, which I like. And I'm going to just add this in, and it's just going to create some really cool texture on my project. Now at this point, I should have added it to that center area instead of going over to that one side, because I'm going to realize later that I want a little bit more of this in the center, but you'll see how I just go in and add a little bit of that. And I'm going to put some ephemera on here anyway, so it's not all going to show. It'll just sort of like be poking around and about the photos and the embellishments that I add here. So you can see here I'm trying to sort out how to get a little bit more of that texture in there, but I end up making it work, and I like how that looks. So, and that dries pretty quickly. I know I did turn my camera off and let it dry, but honestly, it dried fast. didn't take much time. I really love this gingham paper, and I wanted to use a little bit of that in the photo layers. I just think it looks nice with the Shabby Shutters Distress Oxide ink. And there is also these greens in the pattern papers I'm using, other than this gingham, and also in the floral die cut pieces I'm going to use to embellish. Now this strip of orange paper there was from one of the pattern papers I showed you at the beginning, and I'll show you again at the end, but I love using papers like these for parts of the title. And I'm going to just cut those apart, those words apart, and use them for a title along the top. So you'll see me do that here in a minute. I am going to put some craft foam behind the photos just to bring them up a little bit more. And I am going to use some liquid adhesive on the back there because there's a fair bit of stuff sticking to that white cardstock, and tape runner wouldn't hold this down to that paper. So I'm just going to add a little bit of my liquid adhesive here. I just want to make sure I'm getting that stuck on there straight. I'll put a paperweight on there so that it has a chance to adhere to the gesso and the ink and the shimmer spritz, all the layers that I have there. So I'm going to put that down. I'll use my T-square ruler again, just to make sure that those are straight. Now, I wanted to just put these off center because I wasn't exactly sure if I was going to put some journaling on here or not. And you can see that there is space over to the right of the second photo there on the farthest right part of this area where I could actually do some journaling. So I just kind of wanted to leave that free in case I decided that I wanted to add text to that area. So that was the reason for that. So just going to let those paperweights sit there for a bit so that this gets nice and stuck. And here you can see I'm taking that strip that I cut off the top of that text paper, and I'm going to just stick that up there. And I like that. I think it brings that dark blue back up to the top. And I am going to add a little bit of sewing with my sewing machine up there as well. Now I've got those words cut apart, and I wanted to just distress the edges of those papers. And I'm going to just get those kind of loosely centered where I want them to be. And then I'm going to add a chipboard ampersand up to that area as well. So you'll see me do that here pretty quick. And I'm just going to distress that away again with this distressing tool. I've had this distressing tool in my stash for like a really long time, decades. It's an old Stampin' Up one, and I really love it. I think you can get a Tim Holtz one like that, possibly too. So I'm just going to put that ampersand in there. I'm going to fiddle around and get these sort of spread out so that the spacing is relatively even, and get those stuck down. And then it'll just be a matter of adding some embellishments. So as I mentioned in previous videos with working with this kit, there's tons of embellishments. There's the chipboard sheet, there's a pack of die cuts, there's a 12 by 12 sticker sheet, and of course then there's the pattern papers that have all the cut aparts, or there's florals that you can fussy cut. There's no end to embellishments that you could use in this kit, so that is a huge bonus. Now I did want to use 2 of the chipboard floral pieces for diagonal corner work there on each of the 2 photos. And I'm also going to just add a couple of fussy cut florals that I had fussy cut out of one of the floral papers, also in those little floral areas. And I'm just going to lift this up so that you can see up close all of the details. I've added a couple of little phrase stickers in there. One says my tribe and one says #blessed. And you can see the sewing that I added to the layout as well. And that's my layout for today. Thank you so much for stopping by. I really appreciate it. I hope that you were inspired to use products that you have in your stash, or possibly to check out as well the amazing my creative scrapbook kit club. I will leave the link to the kit club in the description box. I'm just showing you this pattern paper again that I used for the title at the top. And yeah, I really enjoyed using this kit this month. It was a lot of fun. I hope you enjoyed my process videos and my tutorials, and make sure you check that kit club out. I think it is fantastic. Thanks so much for stopping by today, and I hope you have an amazing day. Bye-bye.